We welcome you back to tonight's edition of Tornado Talk right here on the Brevard College Athletic YouTube channel. Ryan Wilkes taking through all your coverage tonight, and what an exciting episode we have tonight to talk about the week that was and preview this upcoming homecoming weekend that will surely be exciting. So before we get started tonight, we'd like to thank our corporate sponsors this evening. Thank all these sponsors for sponsoring us. We've got Bojangles, BSN Sports, Comporium, Earthling Coffee, Hampton Inn, Jets Pizza, UNC Health Party, Pepsi, Pinnacle Financial Partners, Platt, Suburban Propane, Subway, and Zaxby's. Thank you to all our corporate sponsors for sponsoring Brevard College Athletics. We're very grateful for that sponsorship in the 2025 season. So before we get started tonight, I want to talk about the week that was. It was a good week for Brevard College. Men's soccer started the week with a road win at Greensboro for a thrilling draw with Methodist. You'll hear from head coach El Dana to break that one down. It was a penalty kick with no time left that gave Brevard the draw against Methodist. Women's soccer remained dominant, moving to 9-0 with 2 wins on the road at William Peace and at Greensboro, remaining as one of 5 teams in Division III without a loss or a tie this season. Volleyball dropped its first match of the week against Pfeiffer, but earned a true road win at North Carolina Wesleyan before ending the weekend with a loss to Southern Virginia. And football fell in overtime on the road, falling to Belhaven 23-20. So that's a week that was in Brevard College Athletics. And with that being said, let's welcome in head volleyball coach, Abby Pardee. Abby, thanks for taking some time tonight to chat about the week that was for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
So obviously on Tuesday, not the result you wanted at home. We kind of talked about that a little bit just in passing. But your team went on the road and took down a North Carolina Wesleyan team on Saturday. What did you like about your team's response to come out strong in that game?
Yeah, I think it was a huge culture win for us. All of last week, after I lost to Pfeiffer, we really decided what does this team want to look like moving forward, and what do we really want to be known for. And we decided, we want to be a gritty team that fights to the end, no matter what the outcome is, just really focusing on the process and building a lot of confidence within ourselves. So we really worked on that during the week before we headed to NC Wesleyan last weekend. And I think that's what really showcased. That was a gritty win. I wouldn't say it was the prettiest win we put up, but we stayed in it through the whole match, and we found out that we can do hard things. And I think that was a really great match for us, especially with the youth that we have on this team. Seeing definitely some younger players step up in big moments was really exciting this weekend.
So the production in that match was spread out across the board. He had 5 players tallying 5 kills or more, with the freshman Milana Hoyle leading the way with 12 kills. How important is it on a game-by-game basis to have more than one contributor, even like you had that weekend with 5? How important is that as a team to have a team effort and not just one player doing all the work?
Yeah, we love having a balanced offense. I think that is something that's such a staple for us, knowing that any given day it's anybody's match to step up. It helps everyone not having to, handle that pressure on their own. Obviously, you want everyone to perform well at a high level every game, but knowing that some people here and there are just going to have better matches than others. And I think being able to balance out our offense is going to help us out a lot, in the future with success, and also just developing our younger athletes, getting them that many reps and seeing them able to execute on it is really exciting.
So we're going to have her on in a moment. She'll hear you brag on her a little bit. Jackson Temeki was extremely efficient in that contest. 7 kills in 15 attacks, no errors, good for a 467 hitting percentage. What does Jackson bring to the table, not only on track for career best offensive numbers, but her leadership on the floor?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Jackson brings so much to this program. It has been really such a joy just to be in this program with her for the last 4 years. We came in together in the same year, so we've seen this program really develop into what it is now. And Jackson, she's always bought in. She's trusted the process, and she is just such a team leader. She's an incredible teammate. She's always uplifting everybody around her, and she gives 100% all the time, not just in volleyball, but with everything she does in her life. She's in band too. She's in a couple other clubs, and she just really dives headfirst into everything that she's a part of. And you just got to admire that. And I think she leads by example so well in this program. And we're just really grateful to have her, and seeing her put up these best numbers that she's ever put up. it's awesome to see that happen her senior year and seeing everything really pay off. We couldn't be more proud of what she does for us.
So I want to go back to Tuesday's game. Don't want to harp on it, but do want to talk about maybe some things that were done or said in practice from that match until Saturday. What kind of changed for your group in those couple days of preparation before you took on North Carolina Wesleyan?
Yeah, we really just focused on accountability and being able to hold each other accountable, and also being able to be held accountable by teammates, and just really setting the standard in practice of, this is what our standard is, and all of the little things, not just the big things, but, how we communicate with each other, our effort, making sure we're following a game plan, like all of those intangibles, we really set standards for those. And we've had standards for them, but being able to hold each other accountable as teammates, I think, is something that really stepped out this last weekend. So that was definitely probably the biggest focus for us, is just accountability and being able to show up for an entire match. We're pretty great at, giving teams the first two sets and then fighting back at the end, but it was really refreshing to see us go get those first two sets against NC West.
So you've got a good chunk of your season remaining, but how have you implemented your vision for this program and just your style of coaching with some of these freshmen? How do you feel like they've received it so far on their end?
Yeah, I mean, I hope they're receiving it well. There's so much progress that's happening on the day to day, and just reminding them to trust the process. You're not going to see huge strides every single day from practice to practice, but we always just focus on getting 1% better each day. We leave practice talking about the positives, and as a coach, I just really want to hold my team to a really high standard and make sure that they know, like, we're fully behind them every step of the way, and just continuing to build that confidence within them, especially when you're young and you get a lot of pressure at the beginning of the season, beginning of every match. You're stepping up and your team has high expectations for you. Just standing behind them and saying, like, hey, we're putting you out here for a reason. We know that you're capable of doing what we're asking you to do. So yeah, just building a lot of confidence. And I think, especially with a young team, just being able to build those mental skill sets, being resilient, being able to handle tough matches, and knowing, you're going to come out stronger on the other side, regardless of the outcome. So just sticking into that process is really what we've been focusing on.
So you talk about those positives and how you like to point those out and keep the positives what they are. What are some of the positives that you've seen with this young group, and how those positives continue to grow and excel throughout this season?
Yeah. Actually, last week I had Coach Eric just go through all of our stats from the first 5 matches to the last 5 matches that we had. And there wasn't one stat that didn't get better. Like, it's actually crazy that every single statistic, improved. And you have to show your team that, because you can't focus on the outcome the whole time. So our blocking has improved, our serve receive has improved. I mean, offensively, we're putting up better numbers this year than we did the previous year. So all of those things are really, really big wins, even though they're not adding up to what you look for in a record wise. Those are all happening every day in our gym. So we're just really focusing on consistency now, especially at this point in the season. I think we've really locked down a lot of that skill set. So just being able to put together a full match is really what we're focusing on. But there are a lot of positives, especially offensively. I'm super proud of where we're at right now.
So it's homecoming weekend coming up. You're still pretty early in your tenure, but what excites you about some potential alumni coming back and checking out the program this year?
Yeah, it's so fun. I absolutely love the people that have graduated out of this program. Still check in with them from time to time, and it's so great to see them enter the real world and do their big girl jobs. But it's so exciting. I hope to get quite a few players back this weekend. We had an alumni match last spring that we got a really big crowd for, so we'll probably do that again in the spring. But yeah, it's so fun to see them. I just I always cheer for them no matter where they are in life, and just hope the best.
All right, Abby. Well, thanks for taking a couple minutes tonight. And without further ado, we'll get Jackson in here. You have a good night, Abby.
You too. Thanks.
All right. All right, Jackson Tamicki joining the show tonight. Jackson, thank you for taking some time tonight, and congratulations on what's been a great year for you so far.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, you're on pace for a career year offensively with career best marks and kills percent and hitting percentage. What improvements have you seen year over year, especially from junior year to now, to continue to produce offensively?
I just spent a lot of my summer in the weight room, really focused on hitting arms. I think that was a really big emphasis I made. I also just I worked on speed a lot. And then coming in, I always try to come into every preseason with the mindset of it's a brand new start. So forget about whatever's happened in the past and really just try and work to be the best that you can. So yeah, I just kind of worked on that.
So I mentioned it. I've mentioned it all season because it continues to be the case. But it's a young team that you all had this year. As one of the more experienced players on the roster, how have you tried to lead and direct some of the younger players, both on and off the court this year?
Yeah, it's been a really fun experience. I'm only like true senior, so I'm the oldest on the team by an entire year. So it's been really fun to kind of step into that role of getting to be kind of like the older sister for everybody. Um, I really like to just make everyone feel like seen and welcome and supported. So that's just kind of the role I've been trying to play, making sure they're doing well outside of it, making sure they're taking care of themselves mentally, just being there, knowing that I'm always an outlet for them if they need anything.
So on the court, watching you, one thing I've noticed this season is it doesn't really matter how the game is trending. Your energy is always there. How important is that? Like I said, as an experienced leader, to no matter how things are going, and that might play a role in some of these matches that you go down 2-0 and you bring it back just due to some of that energy. How important is that for you as a player to have that for your team?
Yeah, I feel like that's always been kind of like a cornerstone of who I am as like a player and a person. I think I always just try to bring everything that I can. And I think that really helps to like encourage people and hope that the goal is for them to see the spark and catch it as well. So yeah, I feel like that has something to do with how other people relate because it's really easy to get bogged down in those hard moments. But if you just keep pushing for the next thing and really like letting your teammates know that you're there and you support them, it's only going to catch the fire in them.
So after the loss to Pfeiffer, what did it take on the court in practice for you and your team to bounce back and earn that victory on the road this weekend?
Yeah, Pfeiffer was a tough one. But I think Coach Abby put it really well. We really held each other accountable and we came back like guns a-blazing. I think in practice it was so loud. I don't think anybody ever stopped talking. And I think that was just such a cool thing to see, the energy and just like what you get from having all those different points of communication.
So I ask every athlete that comes on this show this same question because I always find it interesting the varying answers across the board that there are. What does your pregame routine look like? Do you have any superstitions or any specific music you listen to, or are you just kind of going with the flow on game day?
As the years have progressed, I've gotten a little more chill and less superstitious on game days because whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen. I don't know. I always try to listen to some sort of hype music and really like. Oh, I always run down the line before a game because I don't know. I just started doing that one point in my freshman year, and then I just have never stopped. So I guess that would be my like biggest little superstition.
I will say
I
whoever
also have like a little handshake with Mal. So like every single time we do it, it's like every single time we're in the one rotation, we have to do it.
Nice. I love that. I will say whoever made the pregame playlist for you all, I tip my cap to them. I think I've added a good 5 songs off of that just from being in the gym. It's a good one of the better ones I've heard. So we're approaching, I'd say a little over halfway into the season this year. What have you liked both individually and your playing as a whole from your team this season? And what are you hoping to see improve down the stretch?
Yeah, as a whole, I think I've really loved to see how the freshmen and everybody bought in this year. It could have been really easy for them to not give everything they have every single day. But they come in, they work their butts off for everything. And I think it's such a cool atmosphere to get to be a part of just everyone wanting to be there, everyone wanting to play for each other and do their best at any given moment. Yeah, I think that's been going really well. I think I just want to see all of my teammates just be more confident in each other because they have the skill, they have the talent. They just need to believe in themselves. And I'm very excited to try and get that out of them.
So I'll leave off with this. Being here for 4 years, you've seen this program evolve and develop quite a bit. Last year, the most wins the program has had since 2009. What are some things that you've seen change and evolve since Coach Abby's been here, and where do you see this program going in the next couple of years?
Yeah, my time here has changed. This program has changed night and day. I don't know. I think Coach Abby has everything to do with it. I think the standard she holds us to, I think the accountability she has for us, and just she always wants the best. She's always going to push us to be better, and she's not going to settle for anything that's not that. And I think it's such a cool, again, environment to be a part of. The people she keeps bringing in, because obviously I've been here, so every year we get new freshmen. The freshmen she brings in every year, just like, it just continues to build the culture. And really, I've never felt so close to a group of girls, and I've never felt so happy to like show up for practice into like since Abby and has been pushing this program forward. So.
All right, Jackson. Well, thanks for taking some time tonight, and good luck on Wednesday and then this weekend at home.
Thanks. Have a good night.
All right. Have a good night. That was head coach Abby Pardee and middle blocker Jackson Tamicki. The Tornadoes head to Salem College on Wednesday to take on the Spirits before kicking off homecoming weekend at home at 11 against Meredith. So thank you to Abby and Jackson. Without further ado, we'll welcome in Juan Mascaro Jr. and head coach Juan Mascaro. Guys, thanks for taking some time tonight.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, so your team continues to impress this season. It's like we're beating a dead horse a little bit as the season goes on, but winning 2 more games this past week, both on the road against William Peace and Methodist. Not the barrage of goals necessarily that we've gotten accustomed to throughout the year, but your team continues to find ways to win. What impressed you this week in a couple tightly contested matches?
JJ, I'll let you take that one.
Yeah, I think this week was particular. It was a difficult week. Just both games being on the road. It's a lot of time on the bus, and you're not playing on your surface that you're training on every day. So they call it home field advantage for a reason. So there were some adversities that we had to deal with on the road, just being in different environments. Especially at Methodist, it's a tough place to go play. It's one of the few fields that is still grass rather than turf, so that was a factor, and it's just a difficult place to go play. I think what impressed me most about the team was that we were still able to find a way to win, even though we were dealing with adversity or like variables that we couldn't control that were not necessarily helping our case. But we still managed to put our heads down, work hard, and outscore our opponents to take the 3 points home.
So your team leads the USA South in scoring and goals allowed, scoring over 5 goals per game and allowing just 2 goals in 2025. I've asked you this question before, but it just continues to be a trend. How important is it to play complementary soccer, especially in a competitive conference like the USA South?
Yeah, it's pretty important. We try to have a team approach to this, so it's not just the defensive block or the goalkeepers. I mean, everybody has to do their job, obviously, but we take pride into not allowing a lot of shots and not allowing people to score on us. And that's soccer can be a game of 1 goal difference. So we take pride on that. We take pride on defending. We try to press hard. The last couple of games have not been the best. But we have managed, like JJ said, we managed to get the result. We managed to keep, the goals against to a minimum. So it's an important factor for sure.
So I think when you're cruising like this, it can be easy to maybe go with the flow and just kind of fall into rhythm. How key is it for you both as coaches to not let your players kind of fall into that rhythm and fall into that flow and keep having that energy at practice and in games day in and day out?
It's very important. It's very important because like you said, it's pretty easy to get too big for your bridges, so we gotta make sure that we understand that it's, we can't just show up and it's going to happen, right? We have to go out and work for it every single game. every single practice. We had a conversation about that today, and it's just bringing them back to basics. What it takes. It's all about hard work and class, and having them, holding them accountable a little bit. So having them write down stuff that they're going to do this week, to make the team better, and holding them accountable to that. So it's pretty important, because it's very easy to just think that, it's done. We're just going to go out there and win. And that is far from the truth.
So Michaela Zavekin and Kinley Mosley continue to produce, both sitting in the top 5 in the USA South in goals. How key have those two been to the success continually, and how have they opened up the field for others to create opportunities near the net?
I think that they're the finishers. They finished. Michaela scored 2 goals against Methodist, and Kinley has scored a lot of goals. But they're the finishers. But there's a lot that happens behind the scenes. There's a lot that happens in the midfield. Abby Wambach said that she's a former USA national team player, said that for every goal she's ever scored, there's always a girl that passed her the ball, right? So it's not about just finishing, but it's also about, creating the chances and creating all that. So I think as a team, we have to know that we have them up there, and we got to use them in the sense that, they are very good at certain things, and we have to exploit that. But it is about the whole team, putting the effort for them to finish it.
So it's homecoming weekend coming up. How special is it for both of you to hopefully have some alumni back and check out the program this year?
JJ?
No, homecoming's always special. I think we were away last year for homecoming. So to play at home, it's just special to have some familiar faces back and come, especially, people that have been removed for a little bit, that can, kind of see the growth and the development of the program. Perhaps it adds a little pressure on us to get a result. But to be fair, I'm not really too worried about that. We had a really good meeting today. And I think we're all on the same page, and we're just, ready to approach it like any other game and work hard and score as many goals as we can.
So going back to these past 2 games over the past week, you knew Methodist was going to give you a game, picking the top 3 of the USA South Conference. William Peace also a tough battle. What were some challenges that came up for you all throughout this previous week that made things difficult on you a little bit?
I think that everybody that we play against is going to give us a good game. What I mean by that is everybody wants to beat us more than they want to beat some other teams, because they want to be the ones that, we're undefeated. So they want to be the ones that end that. So it's one of those things that every team we play, regardless of who they are and how good or not they are, they're always going to put their best effort when they play us. And it's just, it's just the way it is. And we gotta acknowledge that. We have to understand it, and we have to be able to deal with it. It happened. I think Methodist played, the Methodist that I scouted was very different than the Methodist we saw on Saturday. They opted up a notch or 2. Meredith is the same way. So every team that comes, especially the teams that we play at home, because we've been undefeated at home for I don't know how many games or how many seasons, but they want to end that, and it's stressful. It's heavy to carry, but it's that's what happens, and you have to just own it and just be better than the other team and play harder and want it more. It's how much do you want it, right? So you got to want it more than the other team.
So 17 players played significant time against Methodist. How crucial is that for you as coaches to have that many bodies that you can trust on the bench to put them out there on the field and still be competitive?
Extremely important, especially in this time of year, the second part of the season in October. It's key to have players that can go in and help us out for, 20, 25 minutes to give some rest to some other people. So it's pretty important. And it's, we talked about it today. It's about, and it's hard because you're going into a game that it's going, maybe 100 miles an hour, and you just went in, and you have to go at 100 miles an hour, because if you don't, then the level just drops, right? So you just gotta keep going. They gotta understand that. I think they do. They understand that the people that go in have to play. You go in, there's no time to waste. You go in, you got to go in at 100%.
So this weekend coming up, what are some things that you want to see maybe improve from last week to this week to continue the streak you all are on?
Scoring more goals. I think that is something that we haven't been able. We scored early against William Pease. We scored early against Methodist, but we didn't keep scoring. Right, so we score, and then we're like, okay, we scored a goal. Okay, we're good. That's not the case, right? You got to finish the game. So if we can score, 5-6 goals, that would be great.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining me tonight, and good luck at Warren Wilson and then at home this weekend against Mary Baldwin.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it. Thanks for having us.
All right, y'all have a great rest of your night.
You too. Thank you.
All right, that was head coach Juan Mascaro and associate head coach Juan Mascaro Jr. of the women's soccer team. Again, women's soccer heads on the road to Warren Wilson before returning home on Saturday to take on Mary Baldwin at Isomel Family Field at 11 o'clock a.m. All right, we have a pre-recorded segment coming up with head men's soccer coach Aldana, and we'll get to that right now. And that proved to be the difference. In a game where offensive opportunities were limited, what did it take defensively to keep that one goal advantage intact?
Yeah, it was a tough place to play. And I remember the game before, you were talking about our depth. The Greensboro game tested it. We were 4 guys out, 4 starters out, all of them offensive players. So now one was not, but either way. So it was nice that other people stepped up. And like I said, tough place to play. I'm very curious to see how other teams are going to do when they go there.
So out of the 9 shots you took, 5 of them were on goal. How important is it for your team to not only put those balls near the net, but make them quality opportunities as you move forward?
Yeah, the thing is, the way the conference is shaping up this year, you don't see a clear, somebody running away with it. So every point, every goal, anything you can put together, especially on the road, matters. And right now we have one team has 5 points and 4 teams have 4 points. So it's a dogfight. You take one day at a time. But how important it is, ask me at the end. But I'd say every goal is very important.
So your freshman keeper, Manuel Tavar Hagstrom, tallied 5 saves in that game at Greensboro, including one in the 73rd minute to help preserve that lead. How impressed have you been so far with your freshman keeper this year?
Yeah, all my freshmen, period. I have quite a few back on defense, in the middle, up front. We're very young, and the bottom line is they had no time for honeymoon. They stepped in. As you know, we graduated top goalkeeper, and here's an incoming freshman that is getting the job done. So that's pretty impressive.
So on Saturday, tough contest with Methodist, a really tough squad in this conference, like you talked about, top to bottom, kind of just seems to be competitive night in, night out. But you face an early 2-0 deficit in the first half, but a quick response from Enrique Sosa in the 28th minute and a tying goal from Leo Zabu in the 71st kind of turned the tide in that game. How pleased were you with your team's response in a game that easily could have gotten away?
Yeah, this is one thing we spoke about at the end of the game in the locker room. One thing I cannot accuse our guys, and it does not matter which game they play to the last minutes. They do not give up. Of course, not always is possible, but because you cannot just correlate the fact that they score the goals with the fact that they work hard to the last minute, So it's nice when that gets rewarded, and that was the case, coming from behind and getting that. That point is going to come handy. You mark my words. So that's good. That's the sign of good things to come. But I'm also asking them to do a little better early in games, because there's been a couple of games that we seem to have started a little flat, point in case we were down 2-0 early in the game. So hopefully we can put a total match together coming up.
So Methodist had an answer after that tying goal from Leo to retake the lead in the 72nd minute, just a minute after Leo put in the back of the net. But it's the second time this season. One of them didn't count, so some people might forget the center game in which there was a late offside call on a goal that would have won the game for you all. But it's the second time this season that you've created an opportunity with under 10 seconds to go. This time it was a handball inside the box with under 10 seconds left that led to a game-tying penalty kick by Cauê dos Santos. What does that say about your team's willingness? You touched on it a little bit, to kind of play through the final horn. And, with 10 seconds left, it's hard to create an opportunity in soccer, but you guys have done it twice now, and this time it paid off. What does that say about your team's ability to play through the final whistle?
Well, statistically speaking, if you consider a goal, it's a full play that, say, starts back on defense, or maybe a ball that you steal in the middle, whatever the case might be, statistically speaking, it takes 10 seconds to score a goal. You wish you would score millions of them in a game if you divide 90 minutes by 10 seconds, but it's the truth, so you should never, ever give up. You should never, ever not try one more, because if you got 10 seconds, you got a shot.
So that game on Saturday, to put it lightly, there was a lot of stoppages. How does that kind of factor into how your team responds to these situations? Because soccer is obviously a game that you'd like to go back and forth all game. When there's that many stoppages, it can kind of thwart the momentum a little bit. But in a game like that, especially at halftime, what do you tell your team to continue to play through that?
Yeah, it was tough. I'm glad you brought that up, because it was clearly the approach taken, by Methodist. Of course, the official plays a part to it if they don't, make people speed up and whatnot. But that's something that I'm glad that we were able to work through, because there's been years past that would have gotten into our heads, and we would have possibly lost focus. But you're correct. That breaks the game. But I'll be honest with you. My overall approach to it is that it hurts whoever does it too. Players like to play. Players like to have the flow of the game, and if you think. That's why we typically don't take that approach, because I think it affects both teams. It takes you may want to take something out of your opposition, but it takes out of your own players, without a doubt.
So early on in the season, it seemed like Arroyo Bootball was going to kind of be that guy that stepped in, maybe not to the magnitude of last year's top goal scorer, but he was kind of separating himself as that top offensive threat. But since then, it's kind of been the rest of the team that has pitched in. Leo has 2 goals. Cauê chipped in with that big one against Methodist. Julian Martin got himself one. What does it say about this team to have so many different guys that can contribute and kind of have more of a widespread approach to the offense?
I still say that Roy will get up there. He's one of the ones that have been hurt, so that kind of broke his momentum. But you're right. It's so much harder to play against a team that you don't need to key in one player, So anybody, any given day, can put the ball in the back of the net. So I like that. I still say that our conversion, like percentage-wise, number of shots taken to number of goals converted, needs to get a little better. But it's a problem that the first thing you got to do is actually get shots, and they're getting there. So that's phase 1. And now we're every day tonight, we're going to be working on finishing. Surprise, surprise. So, we're just wanting a little better percentage, and I think we're going to be just fine.
So how does a result like this on Saturday against a really good Methodist team that came in with 5 wins and had been playing really well. What does this kind of do for you guys moving forward in this next week of prep before you get ready to head on the road?
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt, it gives you confidence and it takes a little pressure off because, like I said, you have no idea how that point is going to come handy. But typically, when we have a week, because most everybody in conference this week will be playing a conference game on Wednesday and a conference game on Saturday. You know, William Peace, which is the team that we play in conference on Saturday, is doing that. But I don't know if the word is fortunate, but we're out of conference on Wednesday, which allows us to be able to rotate players a little more and not. Of course, you wanna win every game, but it's different when it's out of conference in the middle of the run. It allows me now to go a little less demanding on the starters, perhaps, and be a little fresher for Saturday.
So this comes off to me as a very important stretch of the season. You go on the road for 3 games. At Warren Wilson, like you mentioned, maybe a little bit of a break with a non-conference. Obviously, you still want to put it all out there for that game. But like you mentioned, some opportunities to still work with that depth. But then you got William Peace on Saturday and then North Carolina Wesleyan the next Saturday, all on the road. What is the magnitude of this stretch here to continue to build good results? And like you said, keep up with the point scoring here in this league.
Yeah, I mean, if preseason rankings matter, these are the top 4 teams: Methodist, us, William Peace, and North Carolina Wesleyan. Although this year, Pfeiffer is having a great year as well, and there's 2 to come. But that's the make or break, you know. The pressure points, every step that you take gives you a little bit of a buffer, you know. In terms of, first thing I told the guys is don't worry about the stretch coming ahead. Worry about 1 more points that puts you in the tournament, you know, because that's the first step. Second step, you try to be, if at all possible, hosting, you know, and then third, you try to win the regular season title. But it's so close that who knows, at any given week, somebody, let's think about it. We were last place last week and now we're tied in second place, you know, so one game at a time, and first, don't lose. Second, try to win. You know, that's the approach.
All right, Coach, I'll let you get on your way and get ready for Warren Wilson here on Wednesday.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
All right, Coach. That is head coach of the men's soccer team, Al Dana, getting ready for Warren Wilson on the road at Wednesday at 5 p.m. before a Saturday contest with William Peace. We'll be right back here on Tornado Talk. All right, that was head coach of the men's soccer team, Al Dana, as we get ready to round out our show with head football coach Bill Kyatt. Coach, how you doing tonight?
Not too bad. How about yourself, Ryan?
I'm doing well. I got to do one thing before we get going tonight. We had a commenter send $1 to put this comment on stage. She just wants to shout out Coach Kyatt. He spelled it wrong, but we'll go with it. Got to give our viewers what they want here. All right. So tough loss on the road in overtime this past weekend at Belhaven. But let's focus on the positives here first. Another balanced attack, both on the ground and through the air, tallying over 100 rushing yards and 245 passing yards. What have you continued to like about your team's ability to have an impact both on the ground and in the air?
Well, I think that first thing you need to look at is the time of possession. And, you know, it takes a lot to be able to control the ball and to have a sustained drive without having so many errors that you end up either turning the ball over or 3 plays and you end up in a punting situation. So to have the ball control that we've had, that has impressed me tremendously. Now, the downside of that is I would like to see more points come out of that. But just to have the ball in our hands and knowing that we're controlling the clock, that we're controlling the tempo of the game, that does allow us to have a nice mix of the run and the pass and to be able to be balanced, as you mentioned.
So 3 running backs carry the football with Jaden Deaton earning the lion's share of those carries. What continues to impress you about the depth of that unit, although no Rayshon Williams, still guys contributing with different running styles and versatility?
All right. Well, the reason you just put that banner up with Deaton on it is because Deaton is a Mississippi guy. So we knew going into this game that he would have a little extra juice and something to play for with a lot of family and friends there. So we wanted to make sure that he was given that opportunity, which he was. And, his game, believe it or not, as solid as he is, has been improving every week. And, it's hard to believe that a player of that caliber, geez, where's there room for growth? And there is, and in all parts of his game, as solid as his overall game is. And he really, really ran the ball hard. And one thing that I liked about him in this game that, hasn't been as present in past games is his encouragement of the teammates. And, these are subtle things that the viewer may not see. They just watch a guy carry a ball and then he's not carrying the ball, or he catches a pass or he's not catching a pass. And to watch him encourage other players, listen to him encourage teammates, and then watch him celebrate in his teammates' accomplishments on the field. And that could be offensive players when a ball's thrown down the field and he's the underneath route, and we throw it deep and we score a touchdown, he's celebrating, or a great play made by a defensive player, or when we didn't make such good plays and it was perhaps a negative play and he's in there getting guys up and cheering them up and making sure that they don't go down and drift away or be sad about, the outcome of a play. So that kind of development as an overall player, believe it or not, that actually enhances his game as a running back and all the components of that. And then you change that up with a Zion Fauntleroy McDaniel. Wow, what a sharp young man he is. He really understands the schemes of things, what we're trying to accomplish, how we go about doing it. And he's a great person to put in the game because you can feel confident and secure as a coach to know that the right things will be handled. Then Billingsley gets in the game, and I don't know how you want to describe him. I mean, some guys say bull in a china shop. I don't know. But, he's that old school battering ram bruiser. I don't know if it's Jerome Bettis or Larry Zonka or I don't know, somebody that's just running down, and then it doesn't matter who's trying to hang on him, who's trying to tackle him, who's in the way. If we missed a block offensively, if they have an extra guy in there, doesn't matter to him. He's running through people, running over, dragging bodies. And when you see that kind of run, that elevates the plays of everybody around him because it just gives us, extra sense of energy when you see somebody putting that type of effort in on play.
So you talk about Deaton's response and his growth maturity-wise when it comes to emotion and momentum within the team. How important is a guy like that and maybe some others to help respond to a loss?
Right. Well, that's when you look to your leadership group. Obviously, as your quarterback goes, so goes your team. So, you're going to kind of start with that. And then you look at who else offensively might be in that captain's group. And you got a guy like Brody Lindsay. So, when that game came to a close and I had to address the team in the locker room, and you can imagine the state of the union at the time. And he's front and center. He's as close as he can get to me so that he can, get the message, receive the message, and then relay the message. Because, a lot of times when you speak to a team after such an emotional game, and in this case, a loss, a lot of my words get lost during that time. They hear him at the time and, it could ease, some of the pain for a moment. But a lot of it gets lost in the message just because of adrenaline or what has been happening throughout the game and how they're feeling at that time. And, these are some guys that will hear that message, remember that message, and then pass it on, as time goes on, because the way football works, it's a little different of a sport than some of these others. You have a tough loss against a conference opponent in baseball, and you don't have time to hang your head. It's a doubleheader. You got to get right back out. It's the first thing of the next game the same day. You lose in basketball at 9:30 at night and you got a game the next day at 2. Volleyball, hockey. The sports go on. And for us, it's just you have to bathe in it for a week, unless you got a Thursday night game of the week or something, you're looking at an entire week of having to sit on that loss. And to have a good leadership group within the team where they can help boost the morale. Because again, it's one thing to see the coaches do it. I mean, we'll have the morale all day, but where is it for the players? And I understand that the players get their cues from the coaches, and that's where it all begins. But there's still a whole lot of talk in the locker room. I don't spend time in the locker room. I don't hang out in the locker room. I don't hang out with the guys outside of the football practice area meeting room. So, what are they talking about and what are they feeling? And, I do my best to make sure that, they always hold their head high and, their chest is up and, their body language speaks to, okay, we lost the game, but we did not lose a season. So that's what the guys have to understand. And, I get to address the team in full tomorrow and make sure that message is reiterated from Saturday.
So we talked about the depth in the running back room. Got to mention the depth in the receiver room. Ethan Beamish spread the ball around to 11 different guys, recording at least one catch. Adam Douglas led the way with 8 receptions. And we talked last week about those RFNs. You call them RFNs, a run for nothings, and obviously that is not a part of your offense, especially given those stats. How big is it to have so many different guys in that room that can contribute on a day-to-day basis?
Right. So I actually handle the receivers. So I talk to them often about trust. And when I spend as much time with them as I do, I can see who I can trust and who will run the route correctly, who will make the play when it's presented. Who will do whatever it takes to make sure that the job is accomplished properly. And everyone in the room has something great to offer. There is no one in the room that has nothing to offer. And my approach is, if you can do something better than somebody else, it doesn't matter. There's no depth chart for me. I don't have a first string, a second string, a third string, a fourth string. I don't have strings. It's what can you do better than anybody else? Let's put that out there. So, and the guys are starting to understand that, especially some of the players that haven't been with me in the past that are new to the program. And they're understanding kind of how we go about doing it, because some guys are highly skilled at running deep routes. Some guys are skilled at underneath routes. Some guys are skilled at running a ball down or, being able to change direction on a route. There are all these different skill sets that are necessary to play the position. One person may not have all of those or be the best at all of them, and somebody else can do something. So that's why I know I can trust the players when they go out there to do the right thing. And then once they are out there, I have a quarterback that understands. Sure, there's times when you want to take the player over the play, but for the most part, he understands the plays and he can see a defense, understand what the defense is doing, and then how we react to that. Because the defense on most of our plays, now it doesn't mean everywhere across our conference, but on our plays, the defense dictates where the ball goes. So if a player is in spot A and he is not in spot B, then we will throw it to the offensive player that's in spot B with no defensive player. So that's kind of how we operate offensively. And then that's why you're seeing these footballs get delivered to all of the different receivers.
Flipping to the defense, each week it's a different guy, it seems. Robert Dorsey had a great game one week, James Laycock the next week, and this week it was Bailey Ramey. He had arguably his best statistical game of the season, 9 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, constant presence in the backfield. How big of a deal is it for different guys to pop up every week and just prove that no matter who you try to take away, guys are still going to make plays?
Right, and Bailey Ramey is another one of those guys when you talked about earlier about helping with keeping the morale up and things of that nature. There you go with another captain. So you will see him out every time we have a coin toss. So surprise, surprise, he has great stats and makes some plays, but he's also a very unselfish player. So he's doing the right thing each week, but based on what the opponent is doing, it may not allow for him to have statistics. But he waits his turn, and then when his turn appears, he makes the plays when they're presented in a big game, in a huge situation. So, each game is different that you play. Some are out of conference, some are in conference, and then some are the preseason number 2 versus the preseason number 3. Some are on the road, some are a 13-hour bus trip away. There's all these different things. So for him to make the plays that he did within the game that he did, it speaks volumes of his ability on the field.
So I have to address the elephant in the room here. Leading 17-3 at one point, the Blazers were able to turn that game on its head. What did Belhaven do against you all that made things difficult near the end of that game?
Well, what they did extremely well was expose our errors. So I believe you and I spoke about this in the past, and I think it was on the show, that even against Erskine, we made several errors, and we were very close to having a detrimental outcome on some of these plays, but we were able to get away with them. So those errors were corrected, and we had all of that handled. But now a new set of issues pop up for a new opponent, and you have to get those handled. So you do what you can within the game to get them handled, but certain things are just on a play-by-play basis. So, the unfortunate part for us is that we had certain individuals just make an error. It doesn't mean that they played a poor game, that every single time they were out there, they did something wrong. It means it's the human component. They're not a computer. They're not AI. They are a human. So if they have 15 plays in the game and they make one error, well, that's a pretty good percentage, 14 out of 15. That's not bad. Problem is, if that is an error that gets exposed by Belhaven, and that error is a costly one, then it turns into 7 points for the opponent. It turns into a block punt. It turns into a sack for -12. I mean, there's all sorts of different things that can happen during that time.
I lost internet.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was wondering.
All right, I'm gonna come in here and actually finish this interview up.
Yeah, come on
Are
in.
you still in?
Oh, I'm good. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's see if we can fit in here. All right. We're going to do this a little differently here as we round out the show here on Tornado Talk. So, Coach, I want to finish by asking about that road trip. You talked about it going on over multiple days. How'd that work out for your team?
I know the outcome would make it look like it was terrible, but it was actually a fantastic trip in how we approached it. So we actually left on Thursday so that we could have some recovery time. You have to drive through Atlanta, and you have no idea what's going to happen there. So when it was all said and done, we were on a bus for 13 hours, going from Western North Carolina to Jackson, Mississippi. So that first day was really all involved with traveling. We did stop along the way, and we did have a nice stretching session led by Coach O'Leary. So everybody was in there stretching out their necks and the shoulders and back and all of that. But Friday was a little different day for us. So on Friday, we would typically have what's called a mock game. So we run through all of our final details and substitutions and just making sure that, everybody's in tune to what we're doing. I typically do that with no helmet. The guys hadn't really worn a helmet since Wednesday when they normally would have had one on Thursday. So we put helmets on. We actually were able to do it at Jackson State's practice facility. So a former coach here named Eric Gallen, he is now on the staff there. So he was able to orchestrate everything for us to get onto that field. So the kids really enjoyed their time there on that field. And a great way to get a stretch and a lather to get some of that stiffness and soreness out just from the bus ride. And then I took them over to the Mississippi Sports Hall of Fame. Believe it or not, this will be a funny one for you. At Jackson State, the address is 34 Walter Payton Drive. We actually have coaches on our staff that do not know who that is. That is hard to believe. And the address was 34, and I think you know why that's the address. So anyway, I take them over to the Sports Hall of Fame, and I let all the guys know that my football hero is actually enshrined in there. And if they find him, then, I'll take care of them. And sure enough, they were able to find my father in there. They also found my uncle. But it was a great chance for them to see some of these names, these Jerry Rice and the Brett Favres, and, some of these names of guys that have had great football careers and could be a hero in some form or fashion for them. And then outside of that, it was a lot of meeting time, but I also had a mandatory cat nap for them so that they would be well rested. So, when you look at the game and the performance on Saturday, it was not about the trip was too long. It was not about we didn't get enough rest. It wasn't about any of that. We managed that time properly. We did everything we needed to do, and these errors would have surfaced regardless of who was at home, who was away, how close the game was, how far away it was. So we've identified, the errors. We've talked about how they surfaced, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure you don't see those this Saturday against the number one offense and the number one defense in the conference, undefeated 4-0 Southern Virginia.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, and maybe a little bit of foreshadowing here too.
Yeah.
This little card that you got in front of you, like you mentioned, Southern Virginia 4-0 after winning one game last year. You mentioned it a little bit. Number one offense, number one defense on film. What are maybe some things that you've seen from Southern Virginia so far?
Well, the first thing is that I'm a big fan of their head coach. So he coaches for the right reasons, and a lot of guys don't do that. In college football, their coaches see zeros on a lot of them after the first number in these coaches' salaries, and they say, "Oh, I want to coach because I can get these salaries." And that's the last reason that you should be coaching. You're coaching all about the player. It's all about the player. It always has been, always will be. And he just wants the best experience for his players, and he wants them to enjoy and savor every moment of that. And that's the approach that he takes, and he has been building that over time. And he's got all the pieces together. He's got the components where they are, and I have never seen such a confident Southern Virginia team. So they're always going to play hard. They're always going to play with effort. They're always going to be in the right spot. But the one thing that they'd been lacking was the confidence that they could win the games. And when you watch them on film, I'm telling you, people are flying around. I mean, it's no mystery why they're 4-0, and it's definitely not by mistake. I mean, they're doing everything that they need to do against the opponent that's in front of them. And, the quarterback is savvy. He can make great throws. They have explosive players that when they get the ball in the hand, I mean, the very, very long plays, chunk plays. Defensively, it's what we've seen in the past. They're always in the right spot. So if you go to the wrong spot and they're in the right spot, you will get exposed and errors will be made. So, that's why, I've told you time and again about this faceless opponent. I literally brought it so I can show it to you. So I'll show here. I mean, that's kind of what we've been discussing throughout the year is if we can just do what we need to do properly, we have a pretty good chance. It doesn't guarantee a win, but it does guarantee a damn good performance. And we will look like we coached. We will look like we've practiced, and just going out there and doing things where even people that, may not be that have that strong a background in college football can look and say, that doesn't seem right to me. Why would we do something like that? And, college football games are difficult to win. And my wife, she's extremely sharp with numbers and percentages and, all that kind of stuff. And brilliant mind when it comes to that stuff. But not a long history in football. Didn't know anything about it really until she met me. And, it's a lot of time to think on a travel home after that game, and sitting in Atlanta for 3 hours in traffic didn't help. But she said something to me. I talk about how difficult it is to win college football games. And she says, college football, I come to these games, and every Saturday I come, and there's 100% chance that somebody's going to lose. And there's a 50% chance it's going to be you. And I said, oh, my Lord. So when it got put in that perspective, I thought, man, it is really difficult to win these games. And you have to do absolutely everything you can to ensure a solid performance from the team that you put out there that the crowd is watching and that the fans want to see. And, you cover every base that you possibly can. You think of everything. You have to have foresight about what's going to happen. You try to anticipate errors that could come up. But inevitably, in every game, there are errors that are made that you can't anticipate. So if somebody practices something all week and they get it correct every single time, and they watch it in the film, they do it in a final session where you're talking through tips and reminders about a game, they get it correct. But then in the game with the exact same look, they make that error. How do you mitigate that? Well, you have to learn how the player performs. So you think about, I think I'm a pretty good driver, but all of a sudden it's the middle of the day and a policeman is behind me and they always act like they're like so close up behind you, forget how to drive. You get so nervous. You're like, oh, when do I have to turn my turn signal on? Am I going 35? I don't know. Do I have two hands on the wheel? You get all panicked. So what happens is when you get into a game situation, you can't simulate that. You can't simulate the crowd noise. You can't simulate that it's really 3rd and 8 and we have to get this first. So people do things that are uncharacteristic of what they would typically do. And then you have to find out who those guys are that can play with that pressure versus who are the guys that can play in practice. And those guys are being identified, and we'll have everything handled properly. It's just you don't want to run out of time before you figure all that out, and then you end up in week 9 and you realize you're not in the playoff hunt anymore.
So I'll end off with this. It might just be another Saturday for about half of your staff, but it is homecoming Saturday
That's right.
at Islamel Family Field. What do you look forward to about that, and hopefully welcoming some alumni back to the stadium?
Well, just the festivities that are throughout the week. I mean, obviously there are things going on every day in celebration of homecoming, and that's fantastic. And I want the kids to be able to be involved as much as we can, including the pep rally that's at the back end of the week. So there's a lot of natural energy that gets presented during practice because of that. I just don't want it to go over the top where now it's all about the homecoming. And now we got to put in 52 trick plays and run 19 fake punts and do all of that silly thing because it's homecoming. I mean, we still have to play good, sound football. But what a great joy it'll be to have the guys that have really built everything. I mean, what we have now is laid before us from all of the pain and effort and tears of joy and tears of sadness and everything that, heck, injuries, everything that guys have gone through to lay the path for the guys to be able to be successful now, to see those guys come back and welcome them. And I would like to put a great product on the field since, they gave up time and life and body, and then they gave up a lot of things to be able to make things easier for the people that are out there playing now. So really looking forward to that. And, I thank the college for everything that they do to celebrate homecoming and to put football on a platform at 3:00 in the afternoon for everybody to see what we can do. Maybe not schedule a 4-0 opponent, but that's the way it goes. So we're going to have to give them everything we got and see how we do.
So that's going to bring us to an unorthodox ending to our show tonight. My Wi-Fi went out in the other room. So I had to make my way over here, but we'll close it out on that note. Busy weekend upcoming. It'll be women's soccer and volleyball to kick us off at 11 o'clock before these guys take the field at 3. We'll talk to you next time. Again, all those events will be available live streaming on YouTube, and we will talk to you then. Thanks for joining this episode of Tornado Talk, and we'll talk to you next week.